This is Larry Poteat Jr. I'm your real estate agent as well as your personal finance consultant. Thanks for checking out this video. If you can like this video and subscribe to the channel, it will be greatly appreciated. I'm back with another video. This video is in reference to life insurance. This is definitely a tough conversation, and whenever I have it with my clients, it's a hard one to have. But like I tell my clients, this is one conversation that we can have up front, and it can save a lot of pain and heartache down the road. And so the topic is going to be, how much life insurance do you really need? And I have 4 points that's going to help answer this particular question. First and foremost, I always ask my clients 2 questions. One will be, how much can you afford on a monthly basis? Because there's no reason to give my clients something that they can't afford. We start with a monthly amount that you're comfortable with. What I don't want is, I don't want you to get something that's outside of your comfort zone. And then when something comes up and your budget gets tight, that's one of the first expenses that you get rid of. So when it comes to life insurance, I check and see what you are comfortable with on a monthly basis. We look at your budget and we make sure it can fit. I don't want it to be something that you have for 1 month, times get hard, and then it goes away. And then, God forbid, if something happens, then we don't have what we need when we need it. And then sometimes my clients come to me and they know or already have a number in their head as far as what's the amount of coverage that they need with the life insurance policy. Sometimes people know they need $500,000, $1 million, or what have you. But in this particular video, I'm going to give you 4 points that's going to help make that decision for you. Number 1 is, when it becomes time to bury a loved one or to bury a person, you're going to have to cover the cost of a funeral or a homegoing service. And so there are various aspects of that. If there's going to be a burial or cremation, of course, the numbers can differ. But if you're having it in a church, you're always going to have a funeral home associated with it. If you're having a repast, you have to look at all of those expenses. But just to give you a ballpark number, a funeral can cost between $15,000 and $25,000. Point number 2 is, when it comes to the amount, you have to take in consideration assets. And one of the number 1 assets can be your primary residence, or even multiple residents if you have those. But we want to look at the mortgage amount, or the amount that's remaining on the loan. So if you have a home that's worth $500,000 and there's $300,000 left, you may want to get a life insurance policy that covers the full amount. So if something happens, the family isn't losing that asset, or they're not losing that home. But also, you have wiggle room in that as well. Maybe you don't have a full amount of $300,000. Maybe you can do half. Maybe you can do $150,000 and put that towards the house. You have variables with that. And so you always want to consult a financial specialist when it comes to that. I'm a financial specialist and I help my clients make these decisions as well. Because it's one thing just to have a lump sum, but it's another thing to know, once you get that lump sum, where the money needs to be allocated. And I can help you with that as well. And so, like I said, with this particular point, you want to look at your assets. You want to look at keeping your assets in the family. So if somebody passes away, you still have access to the home. You may have to sell it eventually, but at least while you're grieving, while you're going through the process, it's not a need to sell the house immediately or sell any assets immediately. You have options whether or not you need to sell the home, or you can put money towards the home, or you can pay off the home. And so that can create less debt for you, but also that can lower your monthly expenses as well. And so that leads me into point number 3, which are looking at your monthly expenses. Because if someone passes away, especially if that person is the primary breadwinner or primary income producer, in that particular case, their income will be gone. And so you want to look at what are your monthly expenses, looking at the budget. How much is the mortgage? Are there student loans? Are there personal loans? Are there credit card bills? You want to look at all of those and try to make sure, one, in general, you want to make sure that you keep your monthly expenses as low as possible. But two, have an idea of what the family expenses or what the family budget is. So if something happens, you know the monthly bills are 5,000 or 10,000, 20,000 or 2,000, whatever it is, you have a firm grasp on that. So if something happens, you're able to proceed accordingly. And so because credit card bills don't go away, you want to see if certain bills are in your name, in someone else's name, whoever passes away. You want to make sure you have those things in order. And one thing that I have in my checklist will be to have those things written down, to have each other's passwords or be on each other's bank accounts and write down the banks where your money and where you have accounts, different passwords to those accounts. Letting people know what assets you have. If you have investment accounts, if you have other assets, whether there are retirement accounts, other insurance policies from the job, you want to make sure everything is collected together and that you keep them in a secured location, whether it's a safe, a fireproof, a briefcase, whatever it is. You want to make sure you have all of your documents set aside. And also, I was going to leave this for the end, but also with the life insurance policy, you want to make sure that you guys have instructions just in case if somebody passes away, i.e., you want to make sure a will is in place to give directions for if something happens to someone, the assets go to this particular person or is getting shared 50-50 or 25% for these 4 people or 33% for these 3 people. However it is, you want to make sure that things are in decency and order. So when someone passes away, there's not any chaos. There's not any ripping and running around and figuring out that has to be done. Everything is in order and you can proceed accordingly while you're grieving. I hope that makes sense. Number 4 is you want to make sure that you know what outstanding debts you have. Previously, I talked about monthly expenses, looking at your budget, etc. But with those monthly payments comes total amounts. So if you have a personal loan, you may have a monthly payment, but you may want to wipe out that personal loan, wipe out credit card debts. So you want to keep track of what the total amounts of the student loans, credit card bills, personal loans, any other assets that may have any expenses as well. So you want to make sure you have enough with the total amount of coverage for your insurance that you're covering the monthly payments in addition to the full amounts of whatever's remaining. And so remember, number 1 is covering the service, the funeral, the homegoing service. Number 2 is the mortgage. You want to make sure that the house is paid off, whatever assets are taken care of. Number 3 is you want to make sure that whatever income is being missed, that you can recover that you can supplement that with the life insurance policy. And so if $5,000 is your monthly expenses, $5,000 times 12, which would be 12 months in a year, that's $60,000. So you may want to do $60,000 times 2, at least for 2 years, to make sure that you have yourself together, or 3 years, whatever you're comfortable with. Especially if you weren't the primary breadwinner, you want to make sure that income gets replaced until you need to sell the house or until you're able to transition and get in a position where the monthly income or the monthly expenses are met with the necessary income that you need to continue the same standard of living. That's what number 3 is about as far as covering the monthly expenses. It's about if someone passes away, you want to make sure that person has the same standard of living that they had when the person was alive. And so if somebody was covering the bills and it was $10,000, that $10,000 worth of bills don't go away. So you want to make sure that can be supplemented in the life insurance policy. So that's number 3. And then number 4 is, with those bills, what are the total amounts? Let's get those paid off, because once you pay those off, guess what? Number 3 decreases. Those monthly expenses decrease if you get rid of the credit cards, if you get rid of the student loans, if you get rid of the car payments. Those monthly expenses go away once the totals are paid off. And so I hope that made sense as well. And so you need a financial specialist to put all of these pieces together. But I just wanted to inform you on the 4 points that you need to factor in when it comes to answering that question. And so going back to the beginning, like I said, I make sure my clients are asked that question as far as how much you can afford on a monthly basis. And then if you have a designated number, this video now answers that dedicated number, because we're taking steps 1, 2, 3, 4. We're taking those points and we're adding those up. If it's $1 million, then you know you need at least $1 million to cover everything that you need. There is wiggle room. And so feel free to schedule a consultation with me. I can definitely help you through this process. Like I said, this is a very difficult and a very emotional conversation, but I always tell my clients, I would rather have it up front versus down the road, where you may not be able to be in a position to get life insurance, or you may not be able to be in a position to get as much as you need. And so let's have this conversation up front. Let's have this conversation as soon as possible, so you're not trying to figure out how much money you need while you're grieving. You already know how much money you need, and you can grieve and know that everything is already taken care of. So like I said, I hope this makes sense. I hope to hear from you guys. I definitely want to make sure we are all taken care of. This has definitely been a tough year. The past couple of years have been tough years as far as just seeing people pass away. But we want to make sure that people are taken care of, that their needs are being met, that they're not trying to figure out where money is coming from while you're grieving. So I look forward to hearing from you guys. I hope you guys have a blessed and productive day.